right, so welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking into something a little bit unexpected. We're going to try to figure out why immigrants are actually leaving Canada, of all places.
Right.
You guys sent in this super interesting video essay. It's from Canada Immigration, and I got to say, it really kind of turns that whole welcoming haven image of Canada on its head,
Yeah.
So we're going to break down what this video is saying, and most importantly, figure out why should you care about this, right?
Well, I think what's really striking about the video is it kind of just pulls back the curtain.
Yeah.
Right? It shows this stark reality.
Yeah.
It's in contrast to these glossy brochures and all these happy testimonials that you see, right?
Yeah.
So, we think about Canada, universal health care, high standard of living. They pride themselves on diversity. And yet this video essay comes in and says, hey, 2023 saw the highest number of immigrants leaving Canada in over a decade.
Wow.
That disconnect in itself is a huge red flag, wouldn't you say?
It's like you find out that friendly face in your neighborhood is hiding something, some kind of a dark secret, right?
Exactly.
The video really does, like I said, juxtapose, right?
Yeah.
It takes this very bright and sunny Canadian image,
Right.
and it puts it right up against some of the hard realities that immigrants are actually experiencing.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're going to, dig into.
That's exactly what we have to do, right? I think it's so crucial to go beyond just the broad strokes, the national slogans, and actually listen to those lived experiences, those individual stories.
Yeah.
So take the housing crisis, for example.
Okay.
This is something that the video uses a lot, right? Those soaring costs in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, even Montreal, to show how, this dream of a better life can turn into a financial nightmare.
Right.
So you come in full of hope and then you realize, wow, basic housing is just completely out of reach.
Yeah. You're looking for that opportunity, that better life.
Right.
And then, bam, you hit a wall, a financial wall. It's like, the welcome mass booby trapped.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about rent, right? Or mortgages. The video talks about the cost of just living. Groceries, transportation, everyday things. It's all going up.
It's everything. Yeah.
So it's like, even if you have a good job, you're still struggling.
Right. You're just trying to keep your head above water.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Because on the one hand, we know housing affordability is a global issue.
Sure.
But the video makes a really good point that newcomers, they often come with limited savings and support networks, and they get hit the hardest, right?
Right.
It affects their ability to settle in, build a life, and it forces them to make difficult choices.
Yeah.
They end up sacrificing their long-term goals just to survive.
Okay, so we have this economic pressure cooker, right? But it doesn't stop there. The video breaks down the challenges into three main categories: economic pressures, like we just talked about, then social integration struggles, and of course, everybody's favorite,
Oh, yeah.
those bureaucratic hurdles.
The red tape.
The red tape, exactly.
And I think what's fascinating is how they all kind of play off each other. So, for example, one of the things that the video goes into is that frustration,
Okay.
Skilled professionals arrive, they've got years of experience.
Right.
They have all their qualifications from back home. And then they find out that their credentials just aren't recognized here.
Oh, wow.
So they're forced to take these low-wage jobs
Right.
that barely even use their skills. I mean, imagine that, coming in ready to contribute, and you're told to basically start from scratch.
It's so deflating.
It is.
You come in thinking you're going to climb the ladder, they stick you in the basement,
Absolutely.
Makes you wonder, did I make the right move?
Totally.
And even if you do land a job that uses your skills, there's still that whole social integration piece, right? I mean, moving to a new country is a big change for anyone.
Absolutely.
But the video really highlights how Canadian society, some aspects of it, can make it particularly difficult for newcomers.
Right. And I mean, some things are obvious, right? Like language barriers.
Sure, yeah.
The video doesn't shy away from that.
It's okay.
But there's also this really interesting point about, even if you're fluent in English or French,
Right.
you can still struggle with those subtle cultural cues, those unwritten rules. You know what I mean?
Like, you can speak the language, but you don't quite understand the accent.
Exactly.
You're kind of on the outside looking in, even though you're there.
Totally.
So you've got the economic pressure, the social pressure, and then you have that other layer, the bureaucracy, the immigration system. I mean, look, I know paperwork and waiting. That's everywhere.
It's part of the deal.
It is part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
But the video really gets into some specific issues within the Canadian system. Things like those long wait times for residency or even citizenship.
Right.
The struggle to bring family over.
Right.
And then that lack of clear communication from the authorities. It's like you're stuck. You know,
You're in limbo.
you're in limbo. You don't know where you stand.
Totally.
And you can't plan for the future.
It makes you wonder, why wouldn't people just say, you know what, enough is enough, and kind of go somewhere else?
Exactly. So before we get into why they actually leave, I want to go back to those social challenges a little bit more in detail.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's easy to get caught up in all the numbers and the big picture stuff, but we got to remember, like, we're talking about real people here, you know?
Right.
These challenges have an impact on real lives, and I think the video is a really good job of showing the human side of things.
Yeah.
It shows the emotional toll that all of this takes
Yeah.
on people, on families. It's all there.
It really personalizes it, right?
It does.
It puts a face to it. Like, you know, that engineer we were talking about before, the one who came with all those degrees and ended up driving for a ride-sharing app. I mean, that's a perfect example of how different things can be from what you expect.
It's a huge reality check. And, you know, the video doesn't just focus on that one story. It actually shows a whole bunch of different experiences.
Right.
And it highlights how diverse the challenges are.
Yeah, it's not like everybody's having the same experience.
Exactly. Like, there's this one family from Latin America. They're featured in the video. And at first, they were really drawn to Canada because of how multicultural it is.
Oh, okay.
They loved that idea. But even though they were excited about that, they ended up feeling really isolated, partly because of the language barrier, but also because there weren't a lot of support systems for their specific culture.
I see. So it's like welcoming can mean different things to different people.
Exactly. What feels inclusive to one person might feel really isolating to someone else. It just shows how complex this whole thing is, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the impact that all this has on families.
Yeah.
There was this one story in the video that really stuck with me. It was about this woman who was separated from her husband for over 2 years, all because of these delays in the spousal sponsorship process.
Oh, yeah, that was a tough one.
It's heartbreaking. You know, it's so easy to just think of these bureaucratic hurdles as just paperwork and red tape.
Right.
But that video really makes you see the human cost of it all, you know?
Yeah, it really does. We're talking about families getting split up, relationships being put under all this stress, people's lives being put on hold. It's a big deal.
It really shows how these aren't just abstract processes. They're impacting real people's lives. And I think that's why this video is so powerful. It makes that connection between the big picture and the individual stories. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a call to action. You know, it's saying, hey, we can't just sit back and ignore this. Even a country like Canada has a lot of work to do to make things fairer and more inclusive for immigrants. So given all these challenges, I mean, do you think Canada might actually lose its reputation as a good place for immigrants to come to?
That's the question.
Yeah.
And the video doesn't really give us any easy answers.
Well, there aren't any easy answers, are there?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
But it does point to some things that could be improved. Like, for one, it talks about the housing crisis, right? And it's pretty blunt about it. It says, this isn't just a problem for immigrants, it's a problem for everyone in Canada. And it needs some serious solutions, not just little fixes here and there.
Yeah, it's about addressing the root causes, not just putting a Band-Aid on it, right?
Exactly. And besides housing, the video also talks about how important it is to make it easier for immigrants to use their skills.
Right.
You know, when we need to recognize their credentials and qualifications more readily.
It seems like such a waste, doesn't it? All these talented people come to Canada, ready to work, and it's like we're making it as hard as possible for them.
It's like we're leaving money on the table or talent on the tarmac or something.
That's a good way to put it. It would be good for everyone if we could make better use of all that talent and experience, you know?
It would. So we've talked about the economic side of things. What about the social side?
Right, well, the video also talks about that. It says we need to invest more in things like community support systems and resources that are specific to different cultures.
Okay.
Especially for newcomers who are struggling with the language or just trying to adjust to a new way of life.
It's not just about tolerating diversity.
No, it's about going beyond that. It's
Yeah.
about helping people feel like they truly belong, you know? We need programs that connect newcomers with others who speak their language and understand their culture.
It's about making Canada a place where people can actually thrive, not just survive. Okay, so we've talked about housing, the economy, social support. What about the immigration system itself? The video doesn't let that one off the hook either.
Right. It talks about how important it is to simplify things, make them faster, and be more transparent.
Yeah. Imagine if you didn't have to go through all that uncertainty and waiting, you know. If it was just a smoother process, it would be so much better.
It would make a huge difference, not just for newcomers, but it would also make Canada more attractive to skilled immigrants, you know.
It's about creating a system that's efficient, but also compassionate.
Yeah, a system that actually reflects the values that Canada is supposed to stand for.
Okay, so let's wrap up this part of our deep dive by bringing it back to you, the listener. What are your thoughts so far? I mean, after hearing all this about the challenges immigrants face in Canada, has it changed your perspective on the country at all?
Yeah, does it make you question some of the things you might have thought about what it's like to be an immigrant in Canada?
What parts of this conversation have really stood out to you? Has this deep dive sparked any new questions or insights for you? We're going to explore all that and talk about some potential solutions in the final part of our deep dive.
You know, it's like we had this perfect picture of Canada, and now we're seeing there's some, imperfections, some things that aren't quite right. I guess it shows no country is perfect.
Yeah.
And even a place like Canada, known for being welcoming, still has work to do.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's bring it back to you, the listener. What did you think?
Yeah, what are your takeaways?
Was there anything that surprised you or maybe made you rethink some of your ideas about Canada?
Or about immigration in general.
Yeah.
You know, it can be pretty complex.
It is.
Sure.
So did any of those stories we talked about connect with you personally?
Yeah, maybe you've had similar experiences or you know someone who has.
Because those personal connections, those are what often lead to change, you know?
Right, they make us want to do something to actually make a difference. Exactly. So maybe this has made you want to learn more about immigrants in your own community, or maybe you're thinking about supporting organizations that help newcomers.
There are a lot of ways to get involved, you know?
There are. And even small things can make a difference.
Absolutely.
It could be just talking to a newcomer in your neighborhood.
Right.
Or volunteering at a local group.
Or speaking up for policies that help immigrants integrate better.
Yeah. It's about realizing we all play a part in making society more welcoming, more inclusive.
Exactly. A society where everyone feels valued and respected.
And where they can contribute, you know.
Right. Use their talents.
That's what this deep dive has been about, giving you the information, the tools to think critically about these issues, to look past the simple explanation.
If you really dig deeper.
Yeah, and have those conversations, even if they're tough sometimes.
It's important.
So as we finish up, we hope you'll keep learning, keep questioning, keep thinking about all this.
Keep diving deep.
Exactly. Because making a truly welcoming and inclusive society is a journey. It doesn't end.
It's something we all have to work at together.
Right. It takes empathy, understanding, and the willingness to challenge the way things are.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. Until next time.